And welcome to Introduction to Meditation and the Internal Map of Reality, Premier 14. And tonight we will be going through our agenda as normal, but we're going to be preparing to do a change up. We're going to go to a new format next month, and I'll explain that. But today we'll do the introduction, which is what I'm doing now. Then we'll do our 1-minute meditation as normal. And remember that this 1-minute meditation is preparation for you to do longer settings. Then the next thing we'll do, we'll go into a bonus topic, Internal Map of Reality Review. So what I thought I'd do, since we're pretty much completed all of the modules, there's 2 modules left, but I think I'll combine those into a single one for next week. So it's time now to do a review and to say, okay, now what do we do to be able to understand this material more thoroughly and to go deeper with it. So what's great about having had the opportunity to work with Rose is that I was able to get this material up and running, and we've completed it. We've completed just about all of the modules. So now I have that resource material, and we'll go over what the plan is for that. So the bonus topic will be just to review what the map of reality is. And then I think there was a lot of interest in Qigong, and I was never able to really find someone I wanted to recommend, but I saw this material from this gentleman, Master Lin. And the reason I liked it is because he explains things thoroughly. And one of the issues when I was beginning out in Eastern approaches is that there's a problem with the translation. Unless the person understands both English and Chinese Mandarin thoroughly, it's very hard sometimes to translate the meanings. I was told once by a Chinese practitioner that for some concepts there is no English translation, so the person communicating it has to understand it enough to be able to translate the meaning into a meaningful concept in English. And I think that's what Master Lin does. So I don't have an agreement with him to show his video, so I won't be showing the video, but I will be putting a link to one of his intro videos that you can watch on your own. So then we'll talk about next month. So next month, our next session, May 4th. So yes, here's the thing on Master Lin. Please take the time to take a look at his work. I was quite impressed. Okay, so in our next session, I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to be soliciting questions either through email or through the Patreon message system. I'll look at the comments, but I might miss the comments. So if you have a question, I really would prefer you did either message me through the Patreon system or email me. And I'll be sending out an email to all the patrons, trying to get questions. Then each Wednesday, I will deal with the questions I received and talk. We're going to go back to Module 1 and go through the concepts of Module 1 in a more in-depth way and a more interactive way. Now, I'm hoping I'm going to leave this next format over. I'm probably going to change the name of it, just call it Internal Map of Reality. But we'll just continue on. And I'm hoping Rose will be able to participate more. I've been communicating with Rose, and with her schedule and everything going on in her life, we've been having difficulty getting back on the horse. So I'm going to leave it open, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. There's a possibility of me bringing in some other people who might want to discuss these topics. So there might be a variety of co-hosts coming on in the future. But so stay tuned for the change up for next month. I'm really quite excited. So I was wondering how to implement this, how to make the next step, And I think I pretty well figured it out. So we'll go one module at a time, starting at module 1, and the core pieces in there, and then soliciting questions from you. So looking forward to that. So hang in there. You will get an email with more instructions on that. So now let's do our 1-minute meditation. Sit relaxed and make a decision whether you're going to just close your eyes and look at the fuzzy dot, or whether you're going to look at something in front of you. And whatever it is you look at, it doesn't matter. It's really has no particular meaning. It's just something to stay focused on. And staying focused for traditional meditation is important. We don't want people just floating around in the ether unfocused. But this type of focus is unique. It's a soft focus. You're not fixated on something. You're gently watching it, and you're allowing yourself to be caught up in and receive thoughts. So actually the receiving of a thought and going off into a thought, whether in the past or the present or the future, is what we want. Because then you will wake up and realize that you're having a dream. And it's the process of waking up from the dream and going back to focusing on that other fuzzy dot with your eyes closed, or the object or spot on the wall in front of you with your eyes open. That's actually the art of detachment meditation. It's realizing you're in a dream, waking up from that dream, and then going back to a point in space and time where you want to be. So it's being able to maintain that. And again, I'll stress, this is not a fixation. It's a relaxed gaze. And so that's what you're practicing. Okay, so let's give that a whirl and get comfortable. And here comes our 1-minute meditation. Welcome to the Internal Map of Reality bonus topic 13. And tonight we're going to take a break from our normal patterns of topics and presentations and just do a review of the internal map. And we have done a lot of work up to this point. We've covered a lot of topics. We're covered 7 units in the introduction to meditation and 7 units in the introduction to the internal map. So we're just about through our first run through it. I've learned a lot in how to try to organize this material to present it over the internet. Fortunate enough, I've been able to work with Rose. Hopefully Rose will be able to get back on and do live streams with us. My plan is to go through the material a second time, but this time more interactive and more on a discussion basis. I think I mentioned in the very beginning that there's a couple different ways of getting used to this material. The first way is, just to look at it and not really try to do it, just to, get it inside of your sphere of knowledge. The second step is to actually sit down and try to understand it and learn it and practice it. And then the third step is to fully integrate it into the way that you conduct your life. Okay, so the purpose here is to just take a deep breath and go back over some of the things we've been covering up to this point. And again, my plan for next week is to go back into the regular presentation mode. Okay, if any of this material gives you an idea or question or, motivates you to reach out, please do reach out. One of the things I'd like to change coming forward is the amount of interaction. I'm really kind of hoping that we'll get Rose back online, because she's really the one that can motivate people to talk. She's so approachable. But anyway, here's a little review of the internal map of reality. So what we'll cover in this presentation bonus topic is, again, what is it and why do we have one? Why is it important? And something I like to call the prime directive. For each person who is a map, they will have a prime directive, a driving force. Some people don't, some people do, and then some people have a very obvious driving force. And then we'll talk about how it is a 724 activity. It's always on. And then a problem that does occur, and it's actually talked about in many religions, it's talked about in many philosophical approaches. It's your attachment to who you think you are. Attachment. And it's referred to here is that your map is not reality. And then finally, I'd like to just introduce the idea that perhaps one goal is to be able to live your life without a map, and what that would be like. So as you recall, going way back in the introduction to meditation and in the introduction to the internal map, we talked about the fact that our thinking is really based on our senses. It's what we feel, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, and the words that we either speak or hear. And these go into structure a memory. But it's more than just a memory. It's a complete history of all the things that you have felt are important in your life. And it's organized in a timeline. And then it looks at your timeline, and if you could sort of roll it out in front of you, you would see things that happened in your timeline that you never want to happen again. You say, oh man, that was a lesson I learned. And I can go back in my timeline and I could say, geez, I wish I had done that differently, blah, blah, blah. So one important aspect of the map is beyond it just being a historical record of who you are. It flags the things that you need to protect yourself from. So what's important to protect yourself? So protection is a major, major part of your map. The other part of once you feel safe, and this is important because none of this really happens until you feel comfortable and safe. That's why meditation is so important. So the third component then of a map is it has all of the things that you feel are important, your desires. Okay? And you can go back through your map and you can see where your desires were developed and where they became strengthened. And if you look at your map, because it does go into the future, if you look into the future of your map, you will see in there things that indicate when and how you're going to get the things in your life that you desire. Very important to be comfortable with your timeline. And finally, I like to think of your time, your timeline and your internal map is a portal. It's a way of people to interface with you. It's a way of you interfacing with other people. If you can get a handle on someone else's map, then you can quickly ascertain whether or not that's someone you want to connect with, okay, or not connect with. You may go out and deliberately look for people whose maps are structured similarly to yours and are seeking to accomplish the things that you want in life. So it's a portal. It's a way of getting in and out of your thing you call a body and reaching out to the world. So what is this thing I call a prime directive? So you have this thing, the internal map that you've been making your entire life, but how was it created? Obviously, it's got a lot of information, so you're not going to be handling it on a moment-to-moment basis. It's going to be done for you in the background in your subconscious. So your subconscious controls the map, is monitoring the map, and is building the map and shaping it. So in order to work with the map, the first thing you got to do is be conscious of your subconscious, to be aware of it, to be compatible with it. And again, this is where meditation comes in, very valuable. When you meditate, you open up to your subconscious. You'll be able to listen to what your subconscious is trying to say to you and help you with. So subconscious monitors and builds it and keeps it going. So what were the major influences? I tend to believe that your first major influence was your family, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, and your uncles and your cousins. These people in your immediate family had the first impact on you, significant impact. And they would install in you things that are important to them. Here's the trick. Maybe today, some of those things that were installed with inside of you are no longer important. So you need to know that, and you need to maybe tune up your map to flush out the things that were relevant when you were a child, but now that you're an adult, may not be appropriate or advantageous. Then the other aspect of your prime directive, things that you learned or picked up from your friends, from the people that you hang out with, your social group. And I was looking at a meme this morning about why people are still wearing masks. And that's this thing that you've learned from your culture, your environment, and your family to wear a mask. And now that in many places of the world, map wearing is no longer required, many people are still wearing the maps because they've internalized it. So things that you learn from your friends, you will continue doing, even though they may no longer be appropriate or mandatory. And again, I use the example of the mask wearing. No longer required, no longer mandatory, but many people still do it. Why? Because it's in their map now. They think that it gives them safety. The other way that we can update and build our map is through our culture. And I'm now thinking beyond your family and friends to your greater culture, maybe the city, the town, the province or state or the country that you live in. The values of your social, political environment are very powerful. And they determine, what you do to be able to survive. And it may also determine what things you will strive to accomplish. So your family, your friends, and your greater culture all help build your prime directive. And I guess the key point here is that your prime directive is mostly subconscious. You are not necessarily aware of what you're building. Now I have this little example here where you have all these different looking things coming in to the machine and coming out all looking the same. And I sometimes think our map is like that. Our map is like a machine that whatever goes into it, your map is going to try to build the same thing. Not necessarily little professors, but whatever you have told your map is important to you. This is why when we're dealing with people, with loved ones, with friends, and with people who are just meeting randomly in a social setting, they will interpret you based on what they are trying to build. And if you don't fit into their machine, they probably won't even see you. They probably won't even, acknowledge you. But if you can work with their machinery in terms of producing what they consider is important, they'll come up and they will be bonded to you. That's that laws of attraction. You're going to be attracting things towards you that you subconsciously believe are important. And you do this constantly. You do it in your sleep. You do it while you're awake. It's always on. It never shuts off. Your dreams will be based on what you think you need to build. So what is it you think you need to build? And please remember, you do not build it. You who you think you are do not build it. This is done automatically. Your subconscious will build this for you consciously. I know this is why a lot of people talk about the art of meditating in terms of doing nothing. Well, what that really means is that you don't consciously go out and do it. When we do the detachment meditation, you are really just to look at focus on an inanimate object, or either with your eyes open or closed. And I know for some people the word focus is a trigger, so just relax from that. You need to be able to be conscious and aware. So the part of looking at an inanimate object such as a dot on the wall or your fuzzy dot is to keep you aware of where you are in space and time. Now, when you get distracted, you just bring yourself back to that point, like looking at the white line on the highway that keeps you on the road. Now, this is the same thing that happens with our map. Once you've established your map, it starts to run, and it will go and constantly run 24/7, trying to produce whatever it is you told it is necessary. What results do you want out of this reality? And, it is content free. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is that comes into your reality, you're going to try to build it into whatever piece of equipment you think you need. The catch is, it's only going to be as appropriate as your map is. So you need to be aware that your map is not the ultimate thing. It's not you. It's a machine. So your map is not you, and the expression is, the map is not reality. It's just as it shows here in this little deco. That mountain is not a real mountain. It's a symbolic reference of a mountain. So you have inside you a symbolic reference of the things that are important to you. They are not the real you. They are not the real things. It's just a guide to help you find what is important to you, what's important. Why do I say this? Why do we talk about this? Because people will get fixated on the things. I have a lot of things in my apartment. I used to have a house and I sold it, scaled down, as a lot of people do. Because it's just me, and then I don't need a house, and I don't need, acres. But I tell you something, it was emotional leaving that house. And even today, when I'm walking around, I miss my backyard. I was attached to the house. Now in my apartment, I have all these things. I'm attached to the things. Maybe I need to scale down and, just get rid of some of these things. And a lot of religions will have you shed physical things, just give them away, detach from them. I'm not saying you need to go and do that. I just want you to be aware that your map is a symbolic representation of what's important, and don't get hung up on it. You're able to change. Your map is an approximation, the best approximation that you can make of what it is you want in the future. So you need to be aware of it, know when it's resourceful and effective and when it isn't. And when it's not resourceful and effective, be free to make changes. Right? You're only going to be as effective as the options that you allow and adopt to. So this is another whole topic that when we have our live streams again, and it's again, I said, hopefully with Rose, if we can sort of get our timing together. So hang in there, that we're trying to do this. I think the live streams are really the most effective, but this information is important. So now it's out there. So now we have a record. And that's one reason why I'm completing these, is to give you recorded records that we can go back to and reference. Okay, so these options, okay, you need to be flexible. And the way you can be flexible is when you realize your internal map is not real. It's a representation. Then you can change it freely. You don't get hung up about making changes. I know people, and again, I'll say I'm that way too, who get nervous when it's time to change. So changing is a moment where you lose your map. Now we have the next thing coming up in the introduction to meditation called chaos and reorganization, and we're going to be picking up on that. When you make a change, you momentarily lose your map. When you go through a major change in your life, your map is destroyed and then rebuilt. If you think of times in your life when you had a major change, say, you got a divorce, or you broke up with someone, or you changed, you got fired, or someone close to you died, you had a major, major, major sudden change, you are destroyed. Your map becomes ineffective, and you go into major dissonance. And your map, you go through a period of complete chaos. And then it reconstructs. Now, here's the thing. Some people, if they get over the fear of not having a map, and believe me, it's very fearful. You might find that when you meditate, you have some anxiety that comes when you're meditating. And that's usually the point where, in my development, that's normally where I would begin to feel uncomfortable, and that's when I would stop my meditation after 10, 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, whatever. But at some point, you become confronted with the need to walk outside of your map. Now, this is very much what could be called a right brain or a now experience. So people who either can live without a map for periods of time or for longer periods of time for the rest of their lives are very right brain. They're very living in the now. And if you think of people who have made major, major, major impact on society, these are people, I believe, that had transcended the map. When you become enlightened and you become aware, you can step beyond your map. Now, there's no reason why you have to feel you have to. You're not more of a person or less of a person. The thing that I remember hearing as a kid, the very first thing that was taught to me by a very special person, she said, Steve, before enlightenment, there's getting up in the morning, putting on your shoes, and going to work. But after enlightenment, there's getting up in the morning, putting on your shoes, and going to work. Nothing really changes except you internally no longer rely on the map. You are free to, as this shows here, to accept all the input that you receive at any given moment and then to make your own worldview. I guess those of you who have done meditation for periods of time, or maybe there's some of you that have, explored with different kinds of ways of expanding your awareness, know that there is a point where you become maybe uncomfortable or nervous. This is natural. And I have noticed this with people studying meditation and studying the internal map. There's a point where they become nervous. And this is important. When you start to feel nervous, when you start to feel anxiety, when you start to have that fear, that means you are about to walk without your map. You are at that point where you can open the door and step into the realm without a map. And I kind of think, looking back, I don't think this happens or let me rephrase this. I think this can happen in sort of little snippets. You can get little peekaboos, little snapshots of what it's like to live without a map. And then you go back to living with your map. So you can live without a map for brief periods of time and then go back. And then what I'm noticing with myself is that I can have longer and longer periods of a consciousness without referencing everything that I experience to my past. And this is why I say it's more of a right brain thing, where if you're living with your map, you have an experience in every frame that you experience in here and now. You go back to your left brain and reference it. And then based on that reference information on your timeline, you then develop a behavior. People who are very much map-oriented are also very much rule-based oriented. And I use the reference of people who, after the mandate for mask wearing was removed, are still wearing the mask. Why? Because they look at a situation now, even though there are people not wearing masks, they look at it, they go back in their past and they look at what worked then and what was the prime directive then, and then they bring that up to the future. So if you begin to live without a map, you won't do that. Your left brain will become really just a record, and your life will be based on what's happening in the here and now. So that's just some things I wanted to share with you. Why I feel it's so important to, study this material and learn about the map. So next Wednesday, we're going to get back on schedule, and we're going to continue on with the introduction to meditation and do the work on chaos and reorganization. Very, very important. And so I hope you enjoyed this. I will be, again, working with Rose, trying to find a time that works best for her. Until then, we'll keep doing this. We have, as I said, about 2 more units to do in both the introduction to meditation and the internal map. Once we complete those and we have all that material, I have all those PowerPoints updated, then we can go back over the material, but in a different format. We'll do it more interactive, and I'm thinking more all on a live stream. Well, that's it for tonight, and enjoy your week, and we will see you in the next session. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation, and I'm quite excited about what we'll be doing in our next premiere next Wednesday, same time. And think of what questions you might have. I'll be sending out an email reminder and a message reminder to the Patreons. And between then and now, enjoy your week, and I look forward to the next session. Have a good night.